Hey guys, I am a Paper Mario fan, and in today's video, I've decided I wanted to try doing the Pre-Hooktail Pit of 100 Trials. Now, while not a new challenge by any means, it is definitely one that I've taken interest in as a casual player. I initially saw it through Bringle's Can. You should definitely go check him out. He does a lot of similar stuff and is definitely better at the game than I am. But that's where the idea came from. If you're interested in that kind of content, definitely go check him out. I'll link the video where he does this challenge in the description. Now, while he is a lot better at the game than I am, and we'll go into a lot more detail on some of the tricks, I will be giving just a basic rundown on some of them for anybody who's kind of new. Now, floors 1 through 10, I'll just get right out of the way now, are really nothing to write home about because it's literally just chapter 1 enemies. And you'd essentially be fighting stuff of similar strength in chapter 1 leading up to Hooktail already. So I'm just going to use this chance of time to go over some of the strategies we will be using. Like before you get to Hooktail, like everything before it is fair game. So after you get paper mode, just outside of Koopley's house, you can slip through his fence to get a Mega Rush P badge, which is definitely going to be like our main weapon here. Now, of course, your items and badges are going to be pretty limited at the start, though. Sleepy Stomp, while not useful yet, is going to be very helpful later. And the movers, well, they're kind of useless in this challenge because for the sake of, keeping it challenging, I decided to not use their floor skips. Now, floor 11 through 20 isn't really that hard either, because chapter 2 is, not that far from what we're already doing, and some people don't spec into any damage or anything anyways, alongside the fact that you don't have any damage upgrades at the start of chapter 2 anyways, so there's really not much else to talk about here either, other than that you should practice your super guards because there's definitely going to be some harder enemies later in the pit that you're going to want to have the practice for because they deal a lot of damage. Now, what you'll see me doing here is trying to set up Peril Coops with that Mega Rush P badge. Unfortunately, I forget that life shrooms affect partners in the remake, which was annoying. But essentially, what the Mega Rush P does is give the Peril partner 5 extra damage, and with Coop's multiple hit move, it definitely is better on him to be using. But unfortunately, level ups are a bit annoying here because even if he's not in the party, Koops gets all his HP back. So I have to reset it every single time I need to use Peril. Now, floor 20 gives us Fire Drive, and if you played this game, you know how good that is because of how it pierces defense and gives a burn. 21 through 30, again, isn't just most of these, I want to say up to 50 or 60 isn't too terribly eventful, but there definitely becomes an increasing amount of annoying enemies to deal with. These Lakitus, Lactus, whatever. Especially because aside from a first hit, Koops can't hit them, and sometimes after they throw their spinies at you, they'll just hold one over their head and you can't hit them that turn, so it sucks. 30 gets you Zap Tap, which is going to be helpful later. The main thing to note here is just mostly that the Koopas start not dying immediately from Peril Koops. So you have to kind of play around them, especially if they have items like they do here. 40 gets you Pity Flower, which honestly is terrible. 3 badge points for a chance to get a singular FP back, which just isn't worth it. Now, this guy only has a chance of spawning every 10 floors. Unfortunately for me, despite how much money I got near the end, this is the only time he showed up for me, so buy the Thunder Ragers. They're the only thing really worth getting here. The only thing worth noting between floor 31 and 40 for me, just partially because of the spawns I got, is the Poison Pokies. Mostly because they don't die in a singular hit from Koops, So I had to use one of my stored fire flowers to take them out in one turn because there's a chance they poison you if they hit you. And also I suck at their timing. Spiky Parabuzzies are probably the most annoying enemy to deal with because you can't jump on them and you can't hammer them. You have to super guard or use items to kill them, so that's a big hurdle there. 50 doesn't really do much for us here. Now, 51 to 60 is where stuff starts getting interesting, because these badge bandits have enough health to take 2 hits from Koops and still survive. Also, if you don't block them, they steal your item. Well, they steal your badge, actually. The good thing, though, is if either you run away or you kill whatever's left in the battle, they're still left on the floor. You have to actually kill everything in that battle to progress, so you can just keep trying until you kill them. But being a casual, that really sucked for me. It took me like 10 minutes, just over 10 minutes to get this fight done because I was just winging everything and I had no real strategy other than peril, so it kind of sucked. I'm not fond of how I handled it, but that's kind of just how it went. Could I have handled it better? Definitely, but I didn't. So we move on. Now, ice puffs, again, aren't technically too dangerous, but there is a chance that they'll freeze you if they hit you with their ice breath, which isn't great considering if you're frozen you can't block. So if you're low health or have been mostly investing in FP or BP, that's going to be a big hit for you. Sucking at the game, I mostly invested in HP though, so I was fine for most of the run, but there's definitely some scary encounters later that even with high HP, yikes. This also highlights that there's some where super guards are just like your main way of dealing damage with how high their defense is. Also, I definitely shouldn't have beat this guy here, but I got a free stage hazard freeze on him, so that's fun. Free win, I'll take it. Also, I got a bingo, but those are kind of pointless. Because of how inconsistent they are, you don't want to be banking on those at all. Helpful, yes. Should they be your main strategy? No, that's not going to work out for you. I tried a few times. Now, Clefs, I'm just going to briefly mention just because of how much defense they have. So it just becomes a chore to deal with them. At 60, we get double dip, which is kind of useless because we got like no items. 61 to 70 is where stuff really gets challenging because Dark Wizards and these new Lakitus are a hassle and a half to deal with, to say the least. And that's like exclusively because of, well, high attack, high defense, as well as just having more health that you gotta chew through. And of course, the Lakitu's everlasting issue of sometimes just not being able to be hit because he decides to hold something over his head. And the issue with wizards, just all of them, is that if there's one left, they'll just multiply into 4. So use Fire Drive or Koops to deal with them because otherwise you're going to be guessing on which one you need to hit, which is annoying and sometimes detrimental. Especially if you don't have peril set up, like I do here, just because they deal a lot of damage. The super scary fights on these floors are large groups of wizards, because they do a lot of damage. Like 4 or 5 per hit, as well as Goombella's boosted to attack, not doing anything. On top of just everything else, because they're high damage output. They've got lots of health, like I previously stated. They deal 5 damage unguarded, and I just suck at both the guards and super guards on these guys, so they were a big challenge for this run. And I mean like a big one. Especially later with their stronger levels. Now, Dark Craws, they look scary, because they've got a lot of health. But honestly, their super guards are easy. And they've got, like, no defense, so remember to sweet treat, because in this entire challenge, Sweet Treat is like your best friend. Of course, I'm trying to avoid healing Goombella because there are some fights here that peril her is actually better. I can't remember if I get that. No, I didn't get that here. I'm just seeing this as I watch the footage back for this voiceover. But definitely, they're not as scary as they look. Their super guards really aren't that hard. So just Koops, appeal, and use your Sweet Treat when you have to. It's more just a long game of Super Guard and Koops. It's not necessarily a hard game. See? Easy Super Guards. Now, Dry Bones are... They also fall under the category of they're not hard, but they're definitely annoying because they've got so much defense. So Fire Drive is kind of just the main way to deal with these guys. Especially considering I forgot to set up Peril Koops before this, so it was kind of a hassle. On top of their high damage output. Double dip P on 70, which is useless for us as well. Normal wizards. They're about the same as their dark counterparts, but as you'll see here, dummy me didn't notice that one of them had a stopwatch, and you're about to see just how badly just a simple mistake can nearly end your whole run. He uses the stopwatch, successfully freezes me, because I believe stopwatches have a 95% chance of hitting. 6 damage on Koops. They get burned. 6 damage on Mario. Koops goes down. Now all of the hits are hitting Mario. One of them gets boosted attack. I still have 2 turns of no movement left. 6 damage. 8 damage. 6 more damage. They get burned, I break free, and I need to run away. Koopa Trolls look scary, but when they're not that bad, but you'll also see just how much even just a singular wizard can complicate an encounter. Like, I almost die here. I'm not going to show the entire thing because this was quite a long encounter, but it nearly killed me. And I had a really good run going, so that was really scary. Nearly kills me. I did get to run away and I did live this, but... Now, these aren't all that hard, especially because you saw some earlier embers on some of the higher floors. But it just goes to show even some of the less threatening enemies are definitely a bit annoying. But it's the perfect chance for you to be setting up peril and healing everything by storing up all your sweet treats, because once you get the guards and the super guards down, while I haven't, I got good enough at them to get enough out of it to just use these guys to farm star points and heal up, because they do little enough damage that if you guard most of them, they're not too threatening. But of course, if you suck at the guards like I initially did, it's a bit annoying. But that's what the embers on the higher floor are for. Now, this is where Zap Tap comes in handy. Swoops and all of their variations on the lower floors have 2 attacks. A tackle and a health steal. Using Zap Tap prevents the health steal entirely, but you'll still take damage from the tackle attack, and unfortunately there's really no indicator of which one is which. So you just kind of have to be good at super guards, which for whatever reason, whenever they weren't targeting Mario, I just sucked. I don't know what it is. Because I'd hit them when Mario's in the back, I'd hit them when Mario's in the front, but never when they were targeting Goombella for whatever reason. But I didn't mind here because I was trying to set her up into peril anyways. Because we're hitting floors where it's definitely not a bad idea to be setting her up for peril too. With her just naturally higher damage output as well as multi-bonk. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get her set up, so I had to jump them to death. But that gets her ready for the next battle, because in this version, they do heal up with 1 HP whenever they're in the overworld. So that's a nice touch. Helps setup be a lot easier, so once one dies, you can just run away and everything's good. You're all set up, just re-enter the battle and sweep them. Now, this floor did give me a bit of trouble, just on the base factor of Chain Chomps having such high defense. The main strategy, of course, was Peril Goombella to take out the Chain Chomp because of her much higher attack. And then because I didn't have Peril Coops set up, the entire rest of the fight was just the usual fire drive. Because without Peril Coops set up, it takes significantly longer. But I got lucky and got Fog, so there wasn't really too much threat to me. Because luckily, it only affected my side of the screen. Floor 80 gives us Bump Attack, which is actually useless in the pit because it just doesn't work here. Now, 81 to 90 is where stuff gets really real. You see these guys that look a lot similar to Chapter 1 and 2 level enemies? Well, don't underestimate them because they deal an absolute shitload of damage and have much higher defense, so you're definitely going to need a Peril partner if you want to deal any damage to them. That and Fire Drive because it pierces all defense. But look at that. 6 damage to Mario with him guarding. That is a lot of damage, and that becomes a trend throughout the entire rest of the pit from now on. Remember, Sweet Treat and running away to set up is your friend here. Not much to note on these guys, other than the fact that you can only hurt them with Super Guards, items, and Coops. I only bring this up because I had to get good at Super Guards to beat them. Now, Lucky Day is really helpful here because it's like your main source of not taking damage because I think it gives a 30% boost to evasion, which essentially is just the chance they're not going to hit you, which is really helpful. Definitely where everything gets really real. Elite wizards, while they have the same amount of health as a normal wizard, they do a lot more damage. Obviously, you're in the last set of floors, and have more defense. Peril Coops only does 2 damage. This is where Peril Goombella starts being a lot more valuable because multi-bonk exists. So that's definitely going to be your main strategy here. Of course, I failed to keep her set up because I suck at Sweet Treat aiming, because I tend to just spam, because otherwise I'm not going to get anything anyways. Now, here is where Sleepy Stomp gets really helpful, because the Poison Puffs have a 95% chance to be affected by it, which gives you essentially just 5 free turns of no damage coming from them. 2 damage, asleep for 5 turns. Now, over in the corner there's an Amazy Daisy, which I didn't kill in this battle, but the thing to note about them is they give boatloads of EXP, and I mean boatloads. Like, it ran away here, but in a future battle I got it. Look at that. That's from one Amazy Daisy. Just one. There was 2 in that battle. I could have gotten so much more if I killed both of them, but at my current equipment, that's not really feasible. But just Sleepy Stomp, the Poison Puffs, and I didn't really have much trouble with them. The only reason I'm really noting them is because of how easy they were, despite how late in the pit they are. Now, I'll only really mention Bawbulks just because of how easy they are. Sure, you gotta tank a little bit of damage, but one fire drive just kinda eliminates them entirely. Also, there was an Amazy Daisy here that I missed. And now, what everybody's been waiting for. Bonetail herself. Now, here is where I'm going to admit that I did, indeed, not first try this. And I think now is also a good time to say that the remake has a try again feature when you game over, which starts you back from the battle you started at and not the very start of the pit. I unfortunately had to use this just so I could get this video out on time, because as of recording this voiceover, I go to work tomorrow morning, and there's not going to be enough time for me to complete this if I didn't do that. So sorry to anybody who gets mad about that, but call me a faker if you want, but I feel like I did it. I only really used it here. I was fully ready to do the full endurance trial too, but then my second monitor came in late, and recording this didn't happen until like right before I had to go to work, so I kind of had to cut a few small corners. But yeah, no, this battle doesn't go great, and neither do attempts 2 or 3. So for the sake of video length, I think I'm going to cut to the successful attempt and let you watch just all 10 minutes of that. Because there's going to be no voiceover there, I'm just going to say the main strategy there, as you'll see, is Goombella's Multi-Bonk is going to be my damage dealer instead of Peril Koops, because Koops just by default has an extra defense anyways. So Fire Drive occasionally with Mario, and then mostly just Appeal and Sweet Treat. Get better at the Super Guards. So enjoy your full Bonetail pre-Chapter 1 fight from me without any commentary. Have fun. And there it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to check out Bringle's Can for similar challenges like this. He's way better at them than I am. I'll link his channel and the video for this challenge specifically in the comments. Like, subscribe, you know, the usual YouTuber stuff. This is my first time trying a big edited video like this. This was a lot of footage I had to sift through. I hope you enjoyed. I'd love pointers if you have them, as well as any OBS tips, because I would have loved to stream or just record this as like a series, but unfortunately OBS has decided to save my game audio and my mic sound channels to the same thing, and I've yet to get it fixed, so any help with that would be appreciated as well. Thanks, love you guys, and I hope I'll see you next time.